What is up, everyone? What is up with you freaks, scale freaks? This is Daniel again, part 2, Opel Blitz, the Rebel race truck that I'm converting. So this section or this part will be mostly like a slideshow. I didn't have enough time to complete the model and do video and shoot this whole thing, so I apologize in advance. I only did mostly photographs, so it's going to be again like a slideshow. The second part, the chassis, needs a little bit of more work. Remember, I disassemble and assemble, disassemble and assemble. It's kind of like a tedious part of modifying so heavily, but you know, it needs to be done in order for everything to come out as a one-piece model, so it just doesn't look like a bunch of glue and then you throw parts at it and they just stick on. There's a method to this madness, somewhat. The chassis was almost done. I painted it finally, because there's a point where you're like, okay, should I stop gluing stuff to it or adhering things? Should I paint it? When you're modifying like this, there's no specific way to do it. There's no technique or a system. You're just going by what you see and kind of like figuring out how to do stuff, and then the wiring needs to be on top and then parts on top. So I decided to paint the chassis and finally begin to glue the very basic parts that were going to be next to the chassis, and then build on top of that. The engine was finally put on, the drive shaft was secure, the differential, and then that's how I started building suspension around it. A little bit of a problem that I encountered with this one is not like the typical race car build where you can paint the body and then the body just assembles at the end. This cabin was made out of different parts, and because I was doing so much shit to the bottom of it, so many details, I kind of like wanted the cabin to be detachable so you can show it off on and off. Imagine all this work just so you can put the cabin on top, glue it, and nothing will ever be seen, you know. It's a little bit too much, so I decided to leave the hood removable and the cabin removable. So that's what I actually aim for on this part. Again, the chassis needed way more work than I thought. So what I ended up doing, I completed the chassis, glued everything together, and then I worked on the cabin part separate. The problem with that is that you have to do paint, the decals, and then begin to very carefully glue the cabin parts together. That was a little bit of a challenge for this thing. Then the clear, I'll tell you guys in a bit, the clear ended up being a nightmare. Apparently I made a mistake. My really good friend from Virginia, Mr. David Woods, he was kind enough to save my build. He sent me clear, and I guess I used the wrong paint, so the clear reacted. You'll see what happened. I was freaking out because that happened almost a week and a half before the show, so I had like no time to fix it. It was very scary part to see, you know, your whole process, all this detail, effort and everything just to go down the drain because of a big, you know, error like that on my end. But once again, Mr. David, he's a really good builder, great modeler. He's a good friend of mine. He helped me a lot. He has helped me a lot with some of my models. I learned from that guy a lot. So he helped me figure it out, and I finally got to get a decent clear job on the truck, because to be honest, it's not the best freaking clear that I've ever seen. But you know, we got it to be decent, so it looks good. Again, I'm testing the cabin. That's kind of like the most difficult part, to get that nice stance and at the same time make it removable. So you'll see ahead in the video what I end up doing to get that and achieve that section to sit so nice and at the same time to be able to be taken out. More detail, you can see I added in the chassis on the center section, I added battery boxes. I started building a fuel cell, all the hydraulics, all those big tanks for the hydraulics on the back, suspension, the rear brakes. We have dual rotors per tire, so we have 4 disc brakes on the back. A lot of PE, a lot of parts. Sometimes I have sent pictures of this truck and people go like, oh, I thought you build models, this is an RC truck. And I'm like, no, it's not an RC truck. People tend to think that because of all the wiring and everything, like it's a running truck or it's a real little engine, but no, it's just static. This is a part where I built the seat. I like to build my seat belts out of Tamiya tape. I don't do that fabric or all that stuff. To me, they don't sit right. They kind of like, they don't sag how a real seat belt will sag. And also the detail is way too big for 1/24 scale. So I build them with Tamiya and call it a day, Tamiya tape. Interior, I did the main one of the dashboards. These trucks have so many freaking buttons and all this stuff to control so much of this stuff. I did like a dashboard. The main dashboard is just like a smaller section, but to the side there's this control panel, or like a second dashboard we can call it. I made all the buttons facing the driver, of course, the pilot, but on the back there's a bunch of wiring, computers, electronics. You can barely see them once the build is finished. You can barely see them through the windows. Mostly the front windshield, but the side windows also, you know, driver and passenger side. And these are the cables I'm talking about. It was very difficult to lay those and then build a cabin around it. But you know, it was made. There's a lot of details that unfortunately cannot be seen. So what you are going to see in this video, most of it in the cabin, you cannot see it once the model is built. So at the shows, people cannot really peek into it and appreciate all these cables and all that crap that I added on the interior. This is a side view of the truck with half a cabin in, so you can see this part I messed up the first try that I did with the paint. The paint started mixing together. This was a warning that I actually did not pick up on. This paint was some kind of bad or something. It was acting weird on me. I just put paint stripper and started again, but that should have been my warning that this paint was going to be a pain in the ass down the road. So when I applied the clear, it started reacting with this paint. So that's kind of like what we figured out after the whole freaking scare that I got with the clear creating craters. But you'll see what happened. More electronics, electronics, and more electronics. Freaking 100 miles on wiring in this little thing. This stuff is all for the dashboard and firewall. That's gonna be on the engine side. I added more electronics to there, and this is the tricky part, that those electronics on the firewall, they have to kind of like show us if they were connected to the engine, but at the same time the cabin is detachable, so nothing needs to be attached. So it was a little difficult to figure this part out and make decisions actually of what to connect and make it seem like it's connected. So in real life, this truck wouldn't run. Don't get so excited. Side view of all the crap that I added. Here you can see all the clearances and how I had to make the cuts for everything to fit in between the engine, firewall, inside the cabin. It was a little bit of a nightmare trying to figure all this out. Remember, this is not a kit, so the engineering has not been done for you. It's not that, oh, it had bad fitment. No, nothing fits here. You have to cut, redo. Sometimes you think, oh, I'm done, I'm going to put decals on this thing, and no, it doesn't fit at the end. You have to cut it out, you have to redo it, repaint. So that's part of the process to complete a model like this. Engine looks definitely more complete here. So this was the difficult part, bringing parts from the dashboard to connect to the under the dash, actually all those electronics to connect under the dash to the firewall, and then from the firewall make it seem like it's connecting to the engine. That was a little bit of a challenge. This fan setup, that's going to be all the way in front of the front grille on the back side of and the engine side. That's another part that the wires need to go down, and because it's detachable, it needs to show that it's going connected to the rest of the body. Had a little bit of issues again with paint. I had to wet sand it and retouch those paint parts. Decals are laying nice. More tiny parts. These are parts for this is the neck, the connector part for the fueling. So the fuel cell has a neck that faces towards the pit, towards the passenger side of the truck. More carbon fiber parts. Fuel cell with the neck that I was mentioning. Also, the fuel cell, it's a detachable part. There is detail going on the chassis side under the fuel cell, so I decided to do it, the fuel cell detached as well. So again, all that plumbing and those diesel pumps, immediate diesel pumps on top of the fuel cell are not attached to the body. Those lines are just cut out, so you can remove it. I have to put the panels together so I can kind of like see where the colors flow, delivery on the whole design, because the decals have to make sense on not just, and this is the part. Yeah, you can see what happened with my clear. Once I started shooting 2K, it reacted with the paint and started creating these tiny craters. My whole truck looked like shit. I was like, no. Yeah, it's bad. And this is how it actually dried. So the way that I actually saved this thing, I thought I cannot redo the whole thing, so I ended up adding more and more and more to create like a very thick layer of clear. So I started wet sanding it until those craters were almost gone, kind of like very near. You can still see the craters, but not as bad as the beginning, because again, the clear coat was so thick that when you sand it down, you come down to the level almost touching the decals. So I had to be very, very careful not to start sanding down the decals. So once I saw that the clear was almost thinned down with the sandpaper, I ended up clearing the whole thing with Pledge or Future, that gloss thing for floors. The reason why I did that is water-based, so I know for sure that it wouldn't react with anything. Whether it was the paint, I didn't know at that point. So whether it was the paint that was reacting or the clear that was reacting, regardless, I knew that Pledge is neutral, so it wouldn't react with either the paint or whatever the hell was going on. So at the end, that's what I ended up doing with my truck. This whole thing is cleared in Pledge. People are afraid of using Pledge. They say, oh, it goes yellow, it's crap, it's this, it's that. Here you go. All this work in this truck, and it's clear with regular Pledge. Some pictures will look repetitive to you. It looks like I almost went through them, but again, remember, I had to take out the parts, redo something, put it back together, check for clearances, something's hitting, it doesn't fit, it doesn't close, this shit doesn't fit right with this one, so I have to either move it, cut it, modify it, change it. Sometimes I have to change some parts. So this is why you see all these repetitive pictures of the cabin being assembled, disassembled, assembled, disassembled. Bear with me, be patient, okay? Here's the truck, almost complete. The cabin is pretty much done. Checking for last details, the stands, the cabin fitting straight. I had to do a little bit of minor adjustments. Sometimes you sit the cabin and some wire somewhere is hitting, so the cabin doesn't sit properly. So you have to be able to identify that part of that hose or that wire that is hitting, somewhere and making the whole thing crooked. So that's fun. And this is almost complete. I am taking some very last pictures, and the final product, yay, finally ready to go compete. There's pictures of it with the hood on and without the hood. It's crazy, but the only original parts from this truck is again the cabin engine, transmission, and the chassis. The chassis is modified, as you can see. Throughout the process, I cut it, I modified the engine height to be able to fit all that crap on top of it, and still have the cabin to close and the two-part hood, which I actually made only one, but for that thing to sit right, I had to lower the engine in the chassis. A lot of modifications. Fortunately, I took this truck to the Nationals. That was the first show that I actually attended with this thing. I got first place on my category at the 2021. Here's his first place. This is at Vegas. I have been taking the truck to other shows. I've got one-time best of show. I've gotten best detail, best engine, some pretty cool awards that I have taken with this one. I also got a couple of sittings on a magazine, model car magazines, made a full 2-page article on this truck. I was so happy and thankful to them because of this. Like you can see, the truck has been liked, and I am very grateful for that. So again, thank you guys. I have other couple crazy builds that I'm going to be bringing to the channel soon. This was one of them. I took long, but yeah, it's hard to find, time between work, life, building, and still taking care of the channel. I keep saying that I'm going to bring up the level and the quality of this channel. I keep trying. It's just a little bit difficult with everything that I have going on. It's not your fault, guys. It's mine. It's definitely my fault. But little by little, we'll be improving. I am improving on my models. I will be improving on my channel, so you have a better channel, better quality, something nicer to see. Okay, guys? Thank you once again for your support. Please like, share, the good old stuff. And I will see you guys again. Thank you.